right, another week, and Digging Deeper has a special guest. The one, the only, the exclusive, the notorious, the Mr. Clean lookalike.
Go easy.
No, Jim Nichols is joining with me, Pastor Brandon, and Jim. And Jim is a dear friend, been part of this church for a long time, leads our men's ministry with some other great men in the church, and outside of my father-in-law, Pete and I's father-in-law, you are the first non-staff member to join Digging Deeper. And
I better not screw
rumor
it up.
is you don't even watch or listen to Digging Deeper.
I've heard a couple.
So
Normally working, but I guess I could go back.
How'd you get on today then?
I don't know. I just came to church, and I actually had a full day planned, and 2 days ago the job postponed a week.
Okay.
And I had no idea why, and maybe this is why. I don't know, but I got a nice breakfast with your father-in-law this morning.
It's a beautiful surprise.
It's a beautiful day so far. But I was really nervous last night. I got to be honest with you. And I'm like, I'm going through my Bible. I'm looking Proverbs. I know there's some things about friendships in there. And, like a friend is closer than a brother. And I'm like studying and everything. My wife, bless her heart, we need good wives. And I got one. And she goes, Jim, do you really think Pete Goodman asked you to be on today because you're the scholar of the church? I'm like, no, you're right. Thank you. She goes, then just talk about your dear friend. I'm all like, I can do that. So awesome. I relaxed and it was good.
All right. We don't even have Bibles in front of us.
No.
We are such heathens today on the Digging Deeper episode. But normally the drill is we kind of ask questions about whatever happened yesterday, and then that usually kind of spins us in different directions. So, you're here. Let me start with you. I'll ask you a question first. Okay. How long have you been coming to church?
8 years.
8 years.
Yes.
And at this point in our relationship, I would say we're pretty close friends.
I would say we're very close.
And it's always been that way, right?
No, it has not. No, it has not. And I think a lot of that's my fault. I tend to come on strong. I like when I first met my wife, our first date, I basically said, I'm 43 at the time, and it's like,
you are now what?
You're gonna have to let's not go there. Okay, let's not. I get 10% off at Denny's. I think that's all we need to know. But I said you're gonna have to move down here, from Santa Barbara, and she goes okay, and she goes, I want 2 children, and I'm all like, okay, well, like we should come up with their names. This is our first date, and we came up with Spencer and Duke because she only wanted to have 2 boys, wouldn't have girls, and we ended up with Sarah and Charlotte.
Okay.
And we couldn't imagine having boys now, but it's like I tend to come on strong. And I remember the first day that we came to church at Rice City,
which was at
it was at Hill Creek School.
Yes, back at the school.
And I just remember going in. It was actually the 23rd church we had visited. We were looking for a church. I did, because it was getting ridiculous. You name the church, and it's not because the churches were bad. It's just I was former Catholic 43 years, and a lot of them, the first ones, is like there's no pews, there's no organ. I don't think there's ever going to get an organ at Rice. And it's like it just didn't fit my mold. And so it wasn't really the church's fault. It was just I had grown up a certain way.
Okay.
And when we came to Rise, my father-in-law had always said, when you find your church, it'll feel like home. And I got to be honest, I wasn't feeling it. And so we came to Rise, and when I got to the car, Denise asked, what did you think? And I said, man, like that was really good. But she was waiting for the but. And she goes, but? I go, actually, I'm going to grow old with that man. And I've never said that about anyone, but I felt this connection with you, and it came on strong. But the deal with me was that you had something that I really wanted, and you had a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And it's something that I really wanted in my life. Yeah. And so I wanted to get close to you because I needed to learn how to even get there. And I think you kind of maybe felt like maybe I wanted to get close to you because you're the pastor, the rock star.
Well, let's go to week 2. What did you do week 2? How strong did you come on? What did you say to me? Remember?
I said I would love to lead your first impressions team.
Yeah, you said I want to be the lead usher.
The lead usher.
That's what you said. You came up.
That's what my father-in-law.
You came up riding a motorcycle in a leather jacket, and you said, "Hi, I'm so." And you're like, and I want to be your lead usher.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, why don't you set up some chairs?
That's what I thought. So and then you remember what you did a couple months later?
Remind me.
Jim, I was thinking about that position you wanted, and it might actually help for you to come to church. I'm like, oh, okay. But I need that, Yeah. And so, so time went by, and of course I heard the Fred sermon, which started this transformation in my life, getting off of me and more onto, Jesus and others, and trying to be a blessing instead of taking it all into myself. And then I remember, us joining with Harvest Church.
Yeah.
And then you and Pastor Matt at the time saying that, we're going to go with you as the men's ministry leader. And that's like 7 years ago. And I just remember thinking, this is awesome. This is a calling. And, maybe I can become, better friends and get to know Brandon better. And then you started a life group. Remember the life group you started?
Yeah.
And I wasn't invited, and my wife wasn't invited in the life group. And I'm all like, okay, I know I'm not top 3. I'm not in his circle of 3, but like, it looks like I'm not in his circle of 12. And I'm like, I'm not sure I'm making top 72. And so I remember, do you remember the day I came over to your house?
Yeah, we were in my driveway.
And I think it was the day, we had Halloween, and we had walked by, and you had a party going on, and I thought it was with your life group, and I remember getting really jealous and just worked up inside. It turned out to be this group that you guys did this whole 30 or what's it called?
It was a diet that my wife said that we should do.
The whole 30 diet group, and I didn't know, but I knew I wasn't invited. I just remember
I wish I wouldn't have been invited. I didn't want to go on a diet, but that's okay.
But I was jealous.
Yeah.
And I came over to your house, and like, Brandon's going to hear from me. And so I came over to your house, and it was bad timing because I think you had gotten a couple emails from some people, maybe didn't like your sermon. I think one other lady had called you or something and was yelling at you or something. And I'm like the third person. And I'm all like, I just don't understand it. I don't understand why we're not invited in this group and everything. And I remember you being brutally honest with me. And you said, Jim, what you want in our friendship, you might never get. And I don't want to see you and your wife leave the church, but you might have to. And I remember driving home, and it stung, but I needed to hear that. I needed to hear that, we haven't built any trust up. We haven't had any experiences. Yeah. And so like, it's not just going to happen. You're going to have to give this time. And so, thankfully, the Pastor Matt was in the church, and I was introduced to Pastor Mike, and they bled into my life. And so, like, I didn't need you for that. And I didn't know Jim Garlow the 3 years I went to Skyline. I don't need to be friends with the pastor to go to the church. And so it was just really just time for me to just reflect more on me. Like, what am I doing in my life that he doesn't see the person who I am or want to become. And so I think I just worked on me, and it was really good, but I remember at the time, very hard. Wow.
I remember that conversation in the driveway. And I think that was even in a stage of my own personal life where I don't know if we'd had all 4 kids yet, or we at least had 3.
Yeah, 3.
And they're all young. And so for me personally, I talked yesterday about having different like prongs on your Legos. Is like, dude, my Legos are full.
Yeah.
And here's a guy that means well. I really like him, but I just don't have any more Legos prongs left. And I remember being really scared having that conversation with you, because I was like, gosh, I don't want him to leave, like I really like him. But I think one of the things that probably garnered great respect and trust in my heart, even more in your direction, was the way that you responded to that conversation, and that you and Dee did not take off, and the way that you started to kind of like reach out to even more people and begin to not just seek to have people, as you mentioned, like bleed into you, but you began pouring into others. And it was just something I remember just seeing, like, and it was weird because like, it's like you mentioned the word jealousy. There's a part of me too, as I started to see like, oh look, like Jim's doing awesome, and it's like, and then I started to lean in like, hey Jim, I'm over here still, like, hey,
I remember that. And we started to have some really deep things happen in our life. I mean, both our fathers passed away within like 3 months. I mean, that was a time that we were, a chance to lean in. I remember 2 months after that driveway conversation, the church flooded.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we can, if we can go there for a second. And we had a conversation inside your office because the flood was bigger than what I could handle.
Yeah.
And there were 2 companies that were out front. One was my friend that I had invited to come in and help us dry the church out. The other one was the father of a pastor here.
Yeah.
Who this pastor she had already garnered your respect and trust, and you had to choose. And I remember being in your office and you're like, Jim, you don't know what you're asking me to do here. And I go, I perfectly know well what I'm asking you to do, but like God has put it on my heart that you need to go with this other company and not the father of your pastor here. And I remember you said, okay, I need some time by myself. And you came out and you went with the company that I told you that you should go with. And I just remember saying, like, Brandon, just trust me here. If you don't trust me on anything else, trust me here. And, as the story goes, the insurance company didn't cover the claim. And a month later, the
company ended up not charging us for all their services, $100,000 gift.
It was just amazing.
Yeah. So at that point, you're my best friend.
Well, I don't think it hurt.
Yeah, Jim gets my attention now. Let's do some stock investing.
No, I don't think so. But and then just over the years,
we've had some good conversations on the 405.
We've had some great conversations on the 405.
Yeah,
it's good.
But what's talked about on the 405
stays on the 405. Right, okay. But you can ask any question.
Yeah,
and it stays here.
Yep.
And we've had some good talks.
Yeah, but, and I think over now 8+ years, kind of like the way things began, even just then as we started to get closer and having a friend circle, that there was a couple different families that began to kind of be kind of like the core families, at least in the people I was saying in our kind of circle of trust, and just that we were good friends and did things together. We've seen a lot of those families move away. And so we've been kind of through ups and downs, and, we've had lots of conversations like, are you staying? Are you going? And all these things. And then all the while our kids are growing up and watching their experiences. And so, but over 8 years, it's those different levels of emotions that we've experienced together, different things we've been a part of, that I think that as I look back now, it's like, you're one of my best friends, but that didn't happen overnight.
No, no, there was definitely a lot of work. That had to go through that, and but just like some of my best times in the 8 years I've been with you, up at Dodger Stadium. That first year wasn't so well when the Cubs beat us, but
that was the best. That was the best, man. And I went back the next night with my dad and watched them beat the Dodgers again. Yeah, that was good. 2016.
So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
but. It's funny you mentioned one of our friends that had moved away. This guy that went to Texas.
Oh, that one.
That guy. He was kind of, if you look at our circle, he was kind of the glue. That was the guy that said, hey, Pete, Brandon, Jim, let's go play some pickleball. Yeah. And you're my pickleball partner. It's great. We've had some good times.
Horseshoes.
Horseshoes. Mostly on the losing end, but,
Not in horseshoes.
No, not in horseshoes.
Okay. Just want to put that out there,
Give it up.
Okay.
But he was kind of that glue that said, hey, let's all go play softball. Let's go play. Hey, let's all go to the Buffalo Wild Wings, have some wings. I should say Chick-fil-A. Let's go to Chick-fil-A. I should probably say that. I'll get in trouble. But he's gone now.
Yep.
And so I think now it's who's the new glue.
Yeah.
And I think we're kind of going through that right now. And our kids are at that age where they're doing sports now, and we're bleeding into our kids and our wives and all that kind of stuff. But we're kind of in a season of like, where's that new glue? What is the new kind of
and how much time
friendship look like?
And how much time, even though I mentioned yesterday, how much time do we have as our kids are getting highly involved? And I really appreciated, yesterday you came to my son's baseball game.
So I'm not sure your wife appreciated me coming.
Well, you were a little vocal to the umpire, I heard.
When you push the runner on third base and you're the coach and you push the kid back on the bag so he doesn't get tagged out.
I know.
And the umpire goes safe. And then your manager comes out and argues the point, and the umpire goes, I didn't see it. I'm like, are you blind? Like, how do you not see it? And your wife's like, Jim, it's just a game. I'm like, okay.
That's why my wife is so important to me.
Yes, she is.
Very important to me. And
she helped me out.
Good.
But I was even trying, Dan was there, and I'm like, Dan, help me out here. And he's like, I really don't know the rules.
That's
of
my
baseball,
father-in-law. He's like,
Jim, so
do you want to talk about Jesus and his disciples and movements of multiplication? Yeah, he can talk about that, but not.
So I had to turn around to Jamie and say, I'm sorry. I'm just, okay. But you got some big rings out of it. I had no idea.
We did.
It's the first weekend of baseball. I'm already handing rings out now.
We've already got some hardware. So yesterday, a part of this episode of Digging Deeper is because, if people haven't seen or watched, I talked all about the friendships that Jesus both pursued and needed in his humanity. And so when we were thinking about just friendships, it was like, it'd be great to have Jim on. Are there any parts, even yesterday, as you were listening or reflecting, things that stuck out to you, questions in light of considering just the friendship aspect in the life of Jesus in the 33 years he kind of walked the earth?
There were a couple of them.
Okay.
I'm thinking about. One was the Legos.
Okay.
And so many times, so many friendships are either broken or don't get started or get hurt or offended because we don't realize or we don't ask, how many Legos can each person, how many prongs can each person handle?
Yeah.
And we're all, a lot of people think that because I'm the men's ministry leader, I love going wide and I got all these pegs and everything. I actually don't. I got like 5 pegs. Like my 5 core guys. Now 3 have moved away, but like I love going wide, but I really get enjoyment and just I don't even know the word I want to say, but just fulfillment from going deep.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I would encourage people to be in life groups. We go wide here at church, but you go deep in these life groups and just friendships and those one-on-one times. That I throw a Christmas party every year, and that's great.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of fun, but I love those one-on-one dinners that I have with couples in the church and their kids. Those are like the special times to me. So I think it's just realizing or just, being open to, hey, maybe this person doesn't have as many pegs and maybe it's not me. Maybe it's just this person's full, and those pegs can change depending on where you're at in your season.
Right.
But a question I would have for you would be, who are some of those relationships in your life that you've had that have just been so impactful?
Yeah, I think that I've had a series of people over the course of my life that I look back and they're all seasonal. Most of them aren't there anymore. But I remember when I first became a Christian, I've mentioned before, my youth pastor, Brian Heinrich, was someone who just gave a lot of time. He had an empty space in his Lego and he put me right on it and said, let's spend time together. I remember when I was at Illinois Wesleyan University in college and was starting a campus ministry, there was a man named Tim Kotler that ended up doing just a lot of time and focus and attention in my direction. There was a guy in a church named Brad Arnold, who for about a year and a half, he and I met probably every other week. I haven't talked to Brad in probably 10 years, but I still have very vivid memories of our conversations. Most definitely my father-in-law has been somebody since Jamie and I got married that's been someone influential in my life. And then, as I've been out here, I have a group of pastors that I meet with annually that has been very special. Larry Osborne is a pastor that I highly respect, and he meets with us on an annual basis, and those guys and I have become friends. And then there are people here like I would even say Pastor Mike has become someone through the merge of just, he's, a couple decades ahead of me but has been through this in ministry. And so someone to talk to and to get perspective from and such, those are people that I'd say kind of like our mentors.
Right.
Some of my deepest relationships, probably my best friend that I've been through the most with, you're aware of, his name's Cedric.
He just came out to visit. I was so happy. I'm like, this is so good for Brandon.
Yeah. So he's someone that we've been friends for almost 19 years and been through a lot together.
Didn't I make him the face of the Cubs about?
Oh yeah, he and I were on TV. It was good.
Yeah.
That was a game the Cubs lost, but thanks for bringing that up. The Dodgers did get him back on that one. My brother, I have a few different brothers, but my brother closest to me in age is Bradley, someone I talk to very frequently, and he's like both brother, but also really good friend. And then Pete's been in my life for since undergrad. And so Pete's someone that we have been through just a ton together, both occupationally, we're in the same family now, friendship wise. And then, you're sitting on this podcast, so you're somebody that I've had a lot of deep conversations with. You mentioned our Chick-fil-A buddy who took off. There are a few others that I feel like there's Dan Hoffmeister, who used to be at the church.
Yes.
These are guys that it doesn't matter to me if I am the lead pastor of Rise City for 20 years and here for the rest of my life, and other people move away, new people come into my life. Like those are people that I'll still stay connected with just because of all that we've been through, and they're just super close to me. And I hope it goes without saying, my wife is my best friend.
Yeah.
Like my wife is we're not just like husband and wife. Like she's my best friend. I love spending time with her. We have fun together. If people want to have a guys' night, I'd rather choose a Brandon and Jamie night.
Yes.
She's so fun.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's kind of my circles.
Is there, how about a toxic relationship? Have you ever had like a toxic relationship? Like I had a toxic relationship. My groomsman, what do you call the head
best
guy?
man?
Thank you.
Best man?
I'm
Okay.
getting old.
Okay.
My best man.
How old are you again? We haven't.
Jeez, go easy on me. We were tight, very close. And when I met my wife, second wife, my life got real good. I married up. There's no question. My best friend too. And it seemed like his life with his marriage started to go downhill, and he would do things to me to try to knock me down to make his life seem better. And so I ended up having to just say that I can't be around a toxic person like that. And the Bible talks about that, like choosing your friends wisely.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to, cut bait with that friend. Can you talk more on that? Have you had a toxic relationship that you've just one-on-one, it's just not working out and maybe I have to...
Yeah, there are definitely some people. I'm not going to mention people by name, of course.
My best man was Jewish. I don't think he's going to watch this.
Jesus was Jewish. You might. I don't know. You never know. I think that's because one of the points I made yesterday was Jesus displayed having a variety of different types of people in his friend circle. But at the same time, while there's a variety, I think there's discernment of who goes deeper and deeper into that groups of 3 or 12 versus kind of stays on the periphery of the 72, 120, or 500.
Right.
But when toxicity enters into this situation, or the friendship is persuading you away from Jesus versus becoming more like him,
right?
You got to put some guardrails up, right. Or if it's just if it's just doing something deep within you that's not making you like a better man or woman. I had a college roommate that he and I led campus ministry for a few years together. And then, man, it just kind of went south, that there were some differences of theological opinion and all this other kind of stuff. And I love him still to this day. And he and I have kind of reconciled that, but I remember that being one of those things that I had to kind of create separation because it was just it was consuming all of my thoughts and I was becoming very angry and embittered.
Yeah.
Even though this was a guy that was one of my best friends. I've had people here in my time at Rise that I love them, spend a lot of time with them, entrusted things to them. But over time, particularly during COVID, COVID brought a lot of things to the surface that were deeply in there. And unfortunately, it was I can't keep myself entrenched in this relationship because it's not bettering me, it's bittering me. And it's also I don't think it's bringing life. And that's hard, so there definitely have been some of those. And so I think you got to use discernment and in all of those situations. What I would say, Jim, is it's not a quick arbitrary decision. I'm just going to cut them off. It was months and months and months of I'm probably sometimes the guy that wants to hang on too long. But man, it's crazy once you make those decisions at times that what freedom comes and you see it's probably a wise decision.
Right.
So,
and it's neat when it goes the other way.
Yeah.
You know, and I think one of your favorite stories, maybe in the back of your head, is I'll just call him Mikey. When I first came to this church, I wanted to play softball, and I heard you guys had a great softball team, and I went to this guy and I said, you know, my wife and we've been dreaming about joining a church that has a softball team because we'd love to play softball.
Yeah.
And I remember the guy saying, you know, I'm sorry, but there's no room on our team. And
Dude, we just rejected you over and over again.
I remember just being upset.
Did you say I want to play on the softball team? He's like, I am going to be the lead pitcher and
no, I didn't
lead
say
off
that. I said I'm pretty good at third base,
Yeah.
but he's all, you know, we just won our league championship, and I'm sorry, there's no room. And I'm like, well, there's no room at the inn, huh? Well, like loving and life giving church. You know, where is this? And then I
rejects people in Jesus' name.
And then I remember the fall came, and I heard you guys have some fantasy football, and I'm like, Brandon, like, who's running the league? And you said you need to go talk to this guy named Mikey, and I'm all like the same guy? And I'm all like, so I talked to him. I'm like, hey, you know, I've been doing fantasy football since 1991. I mean, I don't know how old
91.
you are.
How old are you?
Like we invented it. We used to take the newspaper and like figure out the stats, you know. And he goes, you know what? We're full. I can put you on the waiting list. But like, you can't call yourself Rise City Fantasy Football League without me in the league, you know. And I'm still on me, right? And he's all, I'm sorry, there's no room. And I said some choice words, and I was really, really mad.
Yeah.
And I remember him telling me later on, he went home to his wife, and he's all like, "This is Jim Nichols. This guy's a cancer." And I mean, like, he's never said that about anyone. And like, and he told me, like, that stings.
Yeah.
And then we had a men's retreat. We joined Harvest, and I remember him calling me one day, and he goes, you know, I was doing some reading, and I have learned that you're what they call the alpha male. I'm like, yeah, guilty. Okay, you got that. He goes, I'm actually the female version of that. They call me Sigma male. And I'm all like, I knew it. I go, you are like as controlling as I am, and you like to dictate stuff and everything, but you have this backhanded like way of doing stuff that nobody sees it. And he goes, yeah. He goes, but I also read that if a Sigma male and an alpha male come together as one and we're not threatened, we can move mountains. And I'm like, bro, would you like to join the men's leadership team? And he goes like, yeah. I'm all like, let's do this thing. And here we are 7 years later. This guy's one of my bestest friends.
And we were talking about Mr. Michael Learight. We will just go ahead and name drop because we all love Michael.
And amazing.
Jim
friend.
and Michael have been a dynamic duo in leading the men's ministry. And man,
I couldn't do it without him.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it without him.
I agree.
You know?
Yeah. So as we kind of get ready to wrap up, I want to just take a minute or two. Like, I mean, you do lead the men's ministry, and you and Mikey, as well as you have a whole team. So it's not just like just the two of you. And
the church got to meet Robert yesterday.
Yeah, Robert Peterson was on yesterday, which was great. Maybe just quick highlights. I know Robert mentioned this yesterday, but things that you're excited about here coming up in regards to just opportunities for men to get connected and hopefully either cultivate or deepen friendships that they have.
Well, one of the neat things is Michael and I have been very intentional about why we have these events.
Yeah.
Why do we do golf, fishing, cornhole tournaments, men's retreats, breakfast? And we're doing it because we know that you can't just come to church for 1 hour, clock in, and have that personal close relationship with Jesus Christ. And we want men to get in groups. And that's been our focus. Can we get men into men's groups? And we have 5 men's groups here at church, which is a way for guys to like just start talking one-on-one and just start figuring this out, because it's mean out there. It's a brutal world, and we get our butts kicked.
Yeah.
And this is a place where we can feel safe. And as men, we can just start to talk this out. And so that has been really, really important. And I know we have a great men's retreat coming up. We have a golf tournament here in 2 weeks. It's going to be a lot of fun. But the main focus was groups. And it was funny because I just had breakfast with Dan Spader, and Dan leads a group on Wednesday mornings that I'm in at 6:30 right here at the church. And we talked about like what's next. And we're praying for like what's next here. And I really think, because you start to look at, where's the strength of the men's ministry? What's the weakness? How can we get better? And I think, starting a mentorship program here at church.
Yeah.
Where whether that's with the youth, whether just men mentor men one-on-one.
Yeah.
I have a program that's 52 weeks that we can actually take a senior in high school with a vetted male man, and he can bleed into that kid for a year, and then we send them on the way to college, you know? So I would love to see, start a mentorship program here. And I guess I'm saying it on TV land here.
Yeah.
So now and more
TV
of
land? How old are you?
Whatever you call it here, podcast. But like, I would love to see mentoring going on here and discipling going
absolutely.
on here. And so those are the two things that I think, and then more outreach, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a beautiful building here, but I want to get us more outside these doors. So that's kind of where my heart is, and just how we get there. I'm not sure, but we're going to pray about it and just meet as a team, because I have 7 other guys in our leadership team that are just rock stars, and I think they are ready for this. And so I think that's where the men's ministry is going. But if you're a man in this church, there are many ways
there are a ton of ways
to meet. I think if you're not connecting, you're not taking that first step.
Yeah.
But if you take that first step, it's amazing what Jesus Christ can do.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I know I've given you a hard time. I'm just running.
That's all good.
But I, as I close, I in absolute sincerity wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart that you did not leave, that you are here. And dude, in the 8.5 years I've known you, you have always been here for me. And I love you, and I thank you, and you're a dear, dear friend. And I count it as a privilege to be able to do this podcast, but even more to do life, and excited for the ways God is using you and growing you, which is then kind of in your language, bleeding into other men, that's helping them become better men and ultimately Christ-centered men. And so thank you. Thank you.
My friend, that means a lot to me. Yeah. It does. I'm humbled to be asked to lead the men, humbled to be here this morning, to share our friendship, and just I'm just so humbled at what Jesus Christ is doing, because I would be nothing without him. And I just thank you that God crossed our paths, because I needed Brandon Grant. I really did. And I needed what Jesus could give me through you. And I can't tell you enough. And I like what you always say, that the best is yet to come.
Yeah, that was Jesus, but I took his words.
Okay, I love it. I love it. Thank you, Brandon.
You're welcome. Well, thanks for joining with us. Next week, we're continuing Fully Human. We got a few more weeks as we ramp closer up to Easter, which is now just a month away, which is crazy. So make sure to join with us on the podcast. Also, if you want to go to our app or website to see the events, you can see the different ways to sign up for the golf tournament, the men's retreat, which is over the weekend of Cinco de Mayo. So yeah, a lot of great ways to get involved. Thanks for joining today, and we will see you next week.
Love you, man.
You too.